Hello and welcome. My name's Karen O'Connor and you're listening to the amazing Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood. I'm here today with Luke Hecker from Men's Medicine, and I found out about them only about a week or so ago, and I was so fascinated by what I heard and what I saw, because I did a bit of Facebook stalking, that I had to get him on the podcast to come and talk. And it turns out when I spoke to him, it's actually a really relevant topic, but I'll let Luke explain that. So welcome, Luke. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
No worries. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on as well. Much appreciated.
So tell me a bit about yourself, and I'm going to ask about your change of hair color later as well, but I'll leave that till later. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is you're involved in.
Okay, me and a partner of mine, we have a company called Men's Medicine. It's actually a charity. Just as of recent, we've gone as a charity organisation. And predominantly what we do is we provide workshops, walks, and couples workshops as well, all around Australia and New Zealand. I guess what we do is we keep it very simple, and what we like to build community. That's what we're about. Community, connection, culture, bringing people together. And we provide a very safe space, especially for the men. We only ever started out with men. And I guess the aim of the game was to change families. And for us, we've seen it as, okay, if we can target the men, then I guess they could show up in their leadership, show up for their family, show up for their partners, and we can create change through that. And as we've progressed and grown, we started working with women and then eventually couples, because we thought, obviously, having a men's workshop and a woman's workshop, they would eventually just go to one, but trying to get both of them, the masculine and the feminine, in the same room was quite a difficult task for us. So predominantly that's what we do now. We work with men, women and couples. We've been all around Australia and New Zealand, from everywhere from Auckland right down to Queenstown, everywhere from Sydney, Melbourne, heading to Perth next week, and then Gold Coast, Brisbane. Yeah, so we've been around, but for us, it's about changing the stigma around men's and women's mental health. Not only that, I guess what we don't always do is we're not a lot of people are creating awareness, which is awesome and it's great, but we offer a bit of a holistical approach, and it's more hands-on. Like, let's change someone's state, not tell them how to do it. And that's, I guess, where our sole focus is. We're very hands-on, and we get down and actually do things, not just talk about them. We don't like to give people a bunch of, I guess, handouts and say, okay, go home and action these things. We do things in the present moment as they come up. And that's what Men's Medicine was about. I guess to give you a little bit of backstory, how the name of Men's Medicine, it was given because, every man has something that they can give to another man. That they don't have to be anyone special. It could be a simple conversation, a hello, how are you? And just being there, listening, understanding, and hearing them out. And that's, I guess, what we call the medicine. That's where it's come from.
So what made you start it? And I actually think it's great. The point you made just then, that the big missing in a lot of things is we can do a lot of reading. We can know a lot of things, but unless we actually put it into practice, it's not going to make any difference. And that's obviously the angle you were coming at it from. Let's get this stuff into practice. But what made you start it?
Okay, I guess it wasn't definitely not started by me. There's actually a whole group of us come together at first, and it grew very naturally. There was never like this grand business plan, like, okay, we're going to start this business and this movement kind of thing. It was like we were just doing these things by ourselves, and I guess we put out a video of what we were doing, and it went very viral. And next minute we had people saying, oh, can we come to Sydney? And okay, let's go to Sydney. We're just a bunch of friends hanging out, doing their thing. And it just sold out. We're like, oh, okay, looks like we're going to Sydney. And then people were saying, can you come to Melbourne? And next minute, it was, okay, we had an event in Melbourne. And it grew very naturally. But I guess just speaking for my own self, for why I wanted to work in this space, I have a background in construction. I had to have a construction business outside of this work. And for me, there was that awareness part in, I guess, the men's mental health space. That was there, and it's becoming very evident. There's a lot of talks about it. It's very common, but there wasn't a great deal of action in it. And I knew there was a link missing. And for me, like, I had a lot of people in the construction industry that had taken their lives, especially younger guys than me and older as well. And I was like, I was quite confused, and it just put me in a position where I'm like, look, you come to an option or a path in life where you can either make a decision to give it to someone else and no, that's not my problem. I don't know how to handle that. Or you can be like, okay, I'm going to have to level up here and I can make a change in this area. I can make an impact in this space. And predominantly that's what I had to come to terms with. And I was fed up with it, really. And that was it. I was like, okay, there's something I can do here. I'm left with an option. I'll take it and run with it. And yeah, here we are.
So what is it you do in the workshops, meetings, whatever they're called?
Yeah, so I guess my role currently right now as we've evolved is facilitation side of things. That's not where I play my part anymore. My particular part right now is management, events, fundraising, the back end stuff, because the whole customer care side of things in this space is very hard. And we realize that we can't all do everything. But to give you guys a bit of an analogy, just speaking on the men's side of things, we simplify things keep it really simple. For the males, it's teaching communication, emotions. What are they? Anger, feeling hurt, guilt, shame. And we go through all these meditation, breath work. And I guess what it is it's leadership as well. Setting an example, very important in this space, especially working with the male aspect. Because if you get a bunch of males in a room or whatever, and there's someone's showing incredible leadership, what tends to happen is the rest will follow. And I guess that's the hard bit. And showing up in your leadership and setting an example for other males is really important, whether they're younger or older or not. I guess where a lot of males are struggling, and females as well, is their environment not that great. And what we do is we create not only a safe environment that come as you are, be who you are, but also an environment that's pulling you forward the right way, growth, education, whatever it may be, and giving males and women as well. I don't want to just segregate it to males, but yeah, giving them tools to navigate through what they are, what's going on in their current life, and a community. So many guys are just doing everything alone, and it's amazing when we get down there. For example, one of our events that we have is a walk, which people think we just go out and go for a walk, which we do, but it's actually a workshop on wheels. People rock up thinking, oh, we're just going to walk. We're just doing a walk and then we turn around and come home. It's awesome. But little do they know we go through and sketch out everything, days in advance and find spaces to do our activities and events along the way. And yeah, it's a workshop on wheels and it's out in nature, which makes a very big difference when you're dealing with that kind of energy and space and what you're trying to provide. It's an element that you don't usually get in a closed room, which adds to the day immensely. So yeah, it's special.
So that first video, the first time you met and the video went viral, what were you doing? What was involved and why do you think it went viral?
There was a section there that was a father and son. So there's the father, there's like a father-son connection. And that was, it's very powerful. It's just I have to give credit to a guy, Jay Godfrey, about his video editing skills because they were amazing. Just the video, the music, everything was timed so perfectly. And yeah, it was just one of those things where it happened so naturally, but it also happened to be such a good timing thing that it worked out so well. But there was a thing called a Primal Screen that Lenore, the other founder of Men's Medicine, that he performed. It was on screen. It's very masculine and also very raw, I would call it. And it's not anything that someone had seen before. That is what I guess made it so attractive to so many people.
And this was all done outside, wasn't it? So you go on a walk and you go in one of the national parks on the Gold Coast when you're up here, and you've obviously chosen it so you can do, like you were saying, specific things at specific points.
Yeah. All of our walks end at a waterfall. So when we first started, we were walking anywhere between 15 and 20 Ks. We soon realized trying to do an event on Saturday and Sunday, especially when we traveled to places like Auckland and Sydney and stuff like that, it was a lot of walking. We were walking 60 Ks in the weekend because we would fly in, walk the track on Friday, and then walk the track on Saturday, and then walk the track on Sunday as well. Sorry if that cut out there. Then walk the track on Sunday as well. By the end of it, we were coming in on Monday, and it's like you'd been walking all weekend up and down mountains. And not only that, working with, I guess, energetic workers. It was a very heavy weekend, and it was never going to last a long time. No one could do that forever. So we had to change things around. And yeah, so now we walk anywhere between 7 and 5 and 7 Ks. And yeah, it's a little bit lighter, and we focus a little bit more on the workshop. Yeah, and that's kind of what we do at the moment. And these are everywhere around Australia and New Zealand. We always go plan these walks out.
And why do you end up at a waterfall?
For us, it's an element that adds to what we do, and I guess part of how we like to wrap things up is cleansing off in the water. It's quite a heavy day. It's very there's a lot of emotions and whatever anger, whatever may have come out or come up throughout the day. And for us, it's important to cleanse off in the water. So we like to finish the day, one jumps in the water, cleanses off, and then we send everyone home. And then we walk home after that. So yeah, we use the elements of nature to our advantage out there, and it's all incorporated into our workshops and, very strategically planned out to make sure that the day flows.
I was going to say, because if you're doing a Primal Screen kind of thing, explain that to me. I know what it is, but in case somebody listening doesn't, explain what that is.
I guess so. Everything that you've ever done in life, there's emotions stored in the body, whether they be anger or so forth. And just for the male aspect of things, it's really important to let that anger or that emotion out. And if you're releasing it in a safe space like that, it's okay. It's not going to come out anywhere else, where a lot of things, tend to, and they get to a point where someone annoys them, they're angry, and everyone knows. You can see someone that's pissed off and annoyed, and it's very evident and clear. So what that is for us, is about going out there and giving guys an avenue to safely release that, instead of going home taking it out on their partner, their kids, someone that they might just walk past. So it's pretty much where you, I guess, get in the water, you send yourself, and it's a very vocal, yell, scream, I guess. And it's not from up here, it's from your belly. It's like letting it all out. So that's, a little, example.
And it'd be very confronting doing that if you were in a closed room. But if you've got a waterfall, it helps to absorb all the sound. So it's not as confronting as being in a closed room or an open area, because you've got the waterfall there.
Most definitely. And you're outside. There's a lot less shame around it. There's not so much, a lot less weird, I feel. Guys could find it very confronting to do that. And I speak for myself as well, where I first did that, and it was very, okay, I don't want to really go out here and start yelling in the waterfall. Like, it's a little bit weird, but you know what? After it, there's great benefits, and what we do is not normal. And you know what? It doesn't have to be, because what hasn't been working is what's normal today in this space. So I think that's why we have such a really good effect, and why our work's very well remembered, and it goes a long way. It's different. And I think that's what males need, especially women as well. The women's walks are even more powerful. I got to give the girls praise that come to our event. They really show up. It's very different. Like, both walks are very much the same, but also very different. Very, very different. So yeah, it's a really good day.
It was interesting when we were talking last week about this, and you were saying, there was a guy with us, and he was saying the walk that he did when you got down to the waterfall, and you all started talking about suicide, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that? Because that was really profound for me. That was what made me take a step back. Yeah. Like, not take a step back to distance myself, but just wow.
Yeah. So there's an exercise that we do. I won't break it all down for you, because it'll ruin it for anyone that comes. But it's pretty much what we do is we shine a light on how real suicide rate is, because we all hear the statistics, and whether we've seen them or not, or whether you've lost someone or you haven't lost someone, it's never really real until you see it, and it's right in front of your face. And the exercise that we do, it I'll give a bit of an insight. It's, I guess, asking males to be honest about suicide, whether they've thought about it or not. And there's a part there where it, like where it gets down to that day and people are like, okay, have you thought about suicide today? And it's quite alarming how many guys are still standing in the middle of the circle or, willing to be there and confront up to it. And that's for us is highlighting it, and everyone needs to see that. And that's why we do that, because, we can hear about, so-and-so took his life and here and why and there, but when you're standing there and there's an amount of men that are standing in the middle of that circle, all women as well, not just one-sided here, and you actually have to look at that, that's the statistics. Like, all those men that were standing here this morning in the middle of that circle very well could not have been here tomorrow or today. And that just hits home with everybody. So you see it, and guys are honest about it. It's quite alarming, hey? You can have a group of 50 men, still 10 men standing in the middle of the circle saying that they didn't want to be here today, this morning, that they thought about taking their lives. That's how real it is. And there's a lot of people that don't want to have that conversation, feel guilt or shame or, we don't talk about that. But you know what? That's not working. So it's important to let people actually see it as well. That's the statistics. We can write it down on paper and say, this many % of people die each day, but when you actually have to go down there and you're looking at another guy or woman in the eye that's standing in a circle saying, yeah, they didn't want to be here today, thought about taking their lives, that's when it hits home. It's home real big. And that's, real side of it. And that's why I guess we don't shy away from having those tough conversations or being okay with putting it out there and saying, this is the statistics right here.
It was interesting how many of the men were there because their wives had made them go as well. That was fascinating. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, definitely. So, it's been everywhere, hey, all over Australia and New Zealand. And the amount of men that rock up, and I'm like, hey, obviously I always ask, how'd you get here? How'd you hear about us? It's common small chat. And, 80% of them are like, oh, yeah, my partner sent me here. I'm like, oh, okay. Even when the tickets are coming through, I'm looking at the names. I'm like, I have to message, the partners. I'm like, hey, you actually have to put partners down. You need to know who's coming, etc. And they're like, oh, yeah, he doesn't know he's coming. I'm like, well, maybe you should tell him. Maybe you should tell him. I've had a few people rock up and they're like, yeah, I didn't know I was coming today. My partner put me in the car and dropped me off. I'm like, okay, that's where things are at. So many women have been like, okay, this is the last straw. Like, if this doesn't help, potentially our relationship's gone or they don't know what to do with them anymore. And yeah, they're desperate. So we've had multiple, so many women stand their partners on one of our events. Yeah, it's quite alarming, to be honest.
And is that an indication of the person looking in can see the issue, but the person in the issue is unable to do anything about it? Or is it a men thing as well? There's kind of a combination?
It's the asking. Yeah, it's a combination of both for me. And I guess I'll roll into the next section on this. It's like men don't know how to ask for help, or they do know how to ask for help, but coming to something like an event like ours is very confronting. The amount of men I know that have come to an event and then they're like, oh yeah, I came to the last one, but I was in the car park and I left. I got scared and I left. I'm like, yeah, I seen you. I seen you leave, man. And even last time we did an event in Christchurch at the university, and it was a 2-day event, free event, and there was guys that rocked up the very first day, and they all were in the car park and they left, and they rocked up. They're like, oh, I'll come back the next day, and they come back. They're like, yeah, I was meant to be here yesterday, but I bailed. And that's happened so many times, and that's just perfectly normal and fine. Like what we do, men's work, and I guess and women's side as well, it's not normal. Not normal. There's not a great deal. There's not a great deal of people doing exactly what we do at all. So yes, it will be confronting. Is it the normal? No, it's not normal. would we like to do the normal thing that everyone's offering? No, definitely not, because not that it doesn't work. We just know that what we do is different. And a lot of people require something different. That's why we've gone this avenue, and that's why we provide something very not so much out of the box services for people to help them. That's normally why our stuff is very, some people don't like it, some people do like it, but the most important thing is providing other avenues for people. Not everyone's going to like what we do, but there's 100 other avenues as well. So what we do is we just provide a different service for people that may not like the normal type of system. A lot of people go to psychiatrists and stuff like that, and they've had massive results. They love that, which is awesome. And then we've had some that didn't like it and they didn't stick to it. There's people left on the fringes, on the outskirts, still going to these things, still going, and they're not getting any results. And, they may be able to come to something like ours, bang, and have a massive change. And for us, that's what it's about, to provide another avenue for people to help grow and change.
I've got to say here, and this is going to sound really discriminatory, you do not look like a tree hugger. You look like a bodybuilder, somebody who does work on building sites. You do look like that. You're not an airy fairy bearded tree hugger.
No, definitely not.
I just dug myself such a hole there, right?
No. I understand that most definitely, and it's just something that I always laugh about, especially with friends I know. And although, I guess how I like to put it is, yes, we do. I guess there's the spiritual aspect to what we do. And for me, I respect that side so much, but it's not where I live. I don't choose to live there. Does the spiritual aspect and community and what they serve and what they offer have an immense value for not only my mental health, but a lot of other people? Yes, so much. I respect it, but I don't actually live there. Not where I live. Do I take what they offer and, this whole centered and being in control of yourself and understanding a deeper connection with who you are and what you want to bring to this world is it's important. And yes, you're right. I definitely don't look like that, because that's not what I am. That's exactly where I don't live, and people are quite surprised, I'm sure. And what we want to do is, I guess what we try to say is we're a bit of a bridge for males. Like there's this all women as well. It's like there's this full spiritual connected side, and then there's like I guess the mainstream, like people that don't really believe in that side of things. We're a bit of a bridge in between. We allow people to come back and forth and mix the two worlds together. But you don't have to live there. Just because you come to a men's medicine event or function or whatever, doesn't mean you have to live in the spiritual world. We just use the elements that they provide and the understanding of how to get in a state, etc. Help people heal it and go through those things. It doesn't mean you have to stay there. You can go back to your normal, lifestyle in the whatever world it is that you live in, whether it's the construction world, commercial, real estate, wherever that may be. But I definitely don't look like the kind of guy that would do men's work as well. So I get a lot of different mixed messages. Even for example, where was I in Christchurch last year? It might have been a year before, the youth prison. So we had went to a youth prison. Kids there, obviously very, these kids have been through, hell and back, I guess, and they've done a lot of things in the community. And I went in there, me and Lionel, and we started speaking, and I got up and spoke to these kids, and obviously I don't realize how heavy my Aussie accent is.
And it's very me thinking you're a Kiwi.
Yeah, I am. See, this is the thing. I am a Kiwi, but my last name's Hecker, and people say, "Oh, it's Luke Hecker," and it's on the badge, and I say, "Yeah, what's more, bro? How are you?" And I got up and I started talking, and these kids were ripping on me. Hey, they were like, "Oh, where's your mud crabs, mate? Like, where's your kangaroos?" And they started ripping on me, and I actually just completely forgot. I was like, "Shit, I look like this Kiwi guy, but I sound so Aussie." Hey, so yeah, I'm used to going into areas like that where I may not look like I sound like I should sound, and that's just it's different, and it's okay. So yeah, I like that about me, I guess.
You actually had a rough few years, didn't you? Which was one of the reasons you started moving towards where you're at now.
Yeah. So I guess to break my story down a little bit, I'll just start like where I grew up. I grew up in a small town, Quilpie, which is way out west in southeast Queensland, and not southeast, like southwest Queensland. And there's not a great deal out there. So yeah, my mother and father worked in shearing sheds. Very as country as they come, as far as like being country in Australia. Soon moved on from there. Went to boarding school in a place called Rockhampton. I was situated there for a little while. Went to Brisbane for a year, played some footy. Anyway, I went back to Rockhampton, and I guess that's when I guess my life changed quite a bit, and it took an unexpected turn where at that time I was introduced to I experimented with drugs and stuff a lot when I was in high school, which was fine, but at that time ice, drug ice, everyone would know about it by now, was just getting introduced into these towns, which were such as Rockhampton and all, like, was heading up the coastline. And I remember we're happy to talk about drugs on here. We can go down this avenue.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, that's fine. So for me, it was, as a young kid, I think I would have been 19 back then, and I didn't really understand it at all, to be honest. And I know there'd be so many parents. There's probably a mother on here right now saying they've had problems with their young boy or girl that's, around this drug as well. And for me, it was like a plague. Hey, it just took everyone by surprise within about 6 months. And because then I knew what ice was. I never smoked it or had anything to do with it, but I knew what it was because I'd been down in Melbourne and Adelaide and traveled around a little bit. But a lot of the kids and the young adults up there, they didn't really know what it was, so they had speed. And then eventually it was all turned into ice, and people just thought that they were smoking smokable speed, but it was actually ice. And I remember when it first come to town, and like we were just like people who sold speed to everyone now selling ice to everyone, just saying it's the same thing, it's just smokable, and no one really knew. And I do remember a time where it just really shook me. Hey, we used to go to parties and everyone was twice in, in really very secluded places, like nowhere in bathrooms, is very well hidden. And that was just normal for, a few months. And then within about 4 or 5 months, I was attending parties more and more. And it was like, it was like smoking a cigarette. Everyone was just sitting on the couch. Everyone was sitting in the bath. It was not hidden at all. There was no like shame around it. There was no like, oh, that's dirty, that's bad. It was just like widely accepted. And yeah, that's where my life pretty much took a turn really bad, where I was smoking ice for, a couple of years. I didn't work, nothing like that. It was just a very confused time for myself. And yeah, it took quite a few years of my life. But for me, I was very fortunate enough to be able to pull myself out of that and make some massive changes in my life. But I know there's still so many young men, women out there that have still got a lot of problems with, and those drugs affect communities so badly. And I know that because I've been there, and I've seen it affect all my friends. I remember there's a time just before Christmas, a lot of my friends, they all went home for Christmas, and a lot of them didn't come back, and and it was because they went home and their parents seen how they looked, and they would have looked run out, and I don't blame them. So kudos to any of the parents that back then that took their kids, and because a lot of them were from farms and stuff like that, and they just like, you're not going back to town, like, look at you, you're a mess. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Now that I look back at it and I look at how I looked and how my friends looked, and I was like, oh, no wonder they were like worried. So yeah, it was a bit of and that was a very tough time in my life. Young kid, not knowing what to do, had a drug and addiction that I didn't actually know I had at the time, in denial about it, didn't want help, nothing like that. So it was a very dark time. It was probably one of the hardest times I had to go through my lifetime anyway. So yeah, and it led me obviously to where I am today, and I've spent a lot of time not only on my mental stability but my physical appearance, and making sure that I really tidied myself up a lot so I was presentable. And yeah, I've come a long way in that space.
Is that why you went into the youth prison in New Zealand?
No, not predominantly, but definitely we want to work with youth. We actually got invited there as She's Not Your Rehab. So Matt and Sarah Brown there in New Zealand. They have she's not rehab. They work with a lot of domestic violence and stuff, and they do work in the community in that space as well. And yeah, they knew we could make a difference. They go out to these places all the time, so they're like, okay, do you want to go out? We're like, yep. And that's predominantly how we ended up there. But yeah, I love it. Love going to those places. They're really, really eye-opening.
So tell me about your blonde hair, because you were dark when I spoke to you on Thursday.
Yeah,
and now you're blonde. For people listening, he's completely changed hair colours.
Yeah, I've got a different hair colour, and I've never dyed my hair before either. I'm not that kind of guy. I just keep it as is. There's a story to it. A good friend of mine, Timmy Martanga and Jess Denny, they had a little baby girl named Luna, and she actually got hit by a car just before Christmas this year, just recently gone. And obviously it's, devastating day and event, leading up to Christmas. And it's been obviously a hard go for that family. She was such a bright kid, and we always try to support, support as much as we can. And Timmy's the father, and he decided to do a marathon, which was Mooloolaba Marathon on the weekend. And yeah, we're like, look, we're all going to do it. We're going to do it just to keep him on track, keep him motivated, keep him moving, as much as we can do to support him. So yeah, we all went down there. I think there was 8 of us all together. Went down and ran the Mooloolaba Triathlon. Obviously, by looks of me, I'm no triathlon runner, nor are any of the other guys that attended. And yeah, we all went down there in full support. It's for the Luna Foundation. So if you want to check that out, it's on Instagram. It's just the Luna Foundation. It's coming up soon. Jess and Timmy Martanga, they're kicking that off, and I guess their story is amazing as well. And how she's been able to deal with grief, and it's still very early stages, but a lot of that's still playing out. But I think it's going to be an annual thing for us. But yeah, the hair was everyone dyed their hair. The girl that lost her life, little Luna, she was a very bright little kid, and she had red hair and stuff, and she liked unicorns, and so we had a very Larry outfit on, and a lot of pinks and purples, and people dyed their hair. I rocked up on Saturday, Friday, and kind of didn't expect my hair to be dyed, but everyone had their hair dyed, so I couldn't be the odd one out. So yeah, I was up. That's ended up with this blonde hair, and yeah, and sunburn as well. I've actually got a number on my arm. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah.
I've got the number still on my arm. Yeah. Yeah. So I've still got the number on my arm, but I had to run with it in the sun, and obviously I don't wear any sunscreen. And so yeah, it's tanned into me. So I won't be forgetting about that anytime soon. So I ended up with blonde hair and a tanned arm. So it was a really good weekend, though. It's for a really good cause.
I'll put the link to that on the webpage as well. Just tell me, before you go, because it's nearly time to wrap up, tell me a little bit about your programs and how people can get in touch with you. And if, this is aimed at women, obviously, but if they're worried about their partners or their sons or whoever, the men in their lives, how can they get in touch with you apart from turning up in the car with them on the Saturday morning?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing for them is to I feel like males have to be not forced, but you have to put it in front of them. And I know that's hard, and it's a little bit, not everyone will agree with that, but it's saying that, hey, babe, you might need help. I'm going to help you out. I guess asking them, well, can you help them? Because not everyone's going to accept it. They may not be open to it. But I guess giving them the comfort that, you do have their best interest, and you would not send them to something like this if you didn't think that it wouldn't help. I think that's the breakdown where women are like, hey, I'm sending you this, and it's approached in a different way where you should be like, hey, look, trust me, yes, I have your best interest. I think this would be not only you, but our relationship, so forth. And mainly to reach out on Facebook or Instagram. If you just type in men's medicine on either of those platforms, it's very, very easy to find us. A lot of a lot of guys are on our community stuff. There's a lot of positive stuff on there. There's so many people you can mix in with it, Kate, as well. It's about the community. The community should support each other. Finding our Eventbrite, jump on there, or Facebook, or Instagram. Pretty much if you're looking on our socials, it should not be hard to find any of our events. We're always posting about them, always putting them up. Other than that, if you've got any questions, please reach out in the messages. We'll get back to you. But then even post-event, every attendee, whether you're a couple, and you're put into a private Facebook group where that's where you get to communicate with everyone that's been on the event and so forth. So then, when you leave, you don't want to just leave and, never, no, a lot of events that you go to, functions, you go there, you meet a few people, shake a few hands, and you probably won't see them until you maybe go to another one, or 2 years down the track where you run into a similar kind of event. We like to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to connect after as well without them having to track each other down. So everyone's details are going to a group and they're all entered into a Facebook group and they go from there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of support as well post-event.
And the other thing that surprised me was the cost. How much is it?
To come on the couples workshop, $3.99 for the both, and then for either one of our workshops or our walks, it's $179, which is like crazy because a lot of people have said, why is that so cheap? We've had people go, that is worth a lot more than what you guys offer. But for us, that's why we've gone as a charity. For us, it would be really nice to offer free events. We know a lot of the demographics that we work with aren't in a financial position where they can afford personal growth, or they can afford to invest in themselves or their relationships. So for us, we balance a fine line without, one, being able to stay alive and keep being able to do what we do and travel around, and then two, making it more affordable enough so that people can get the help and support that they need.
Mm. Thank you so much, Luke. Have you got anything else you want to share before we go?
No, other than pretty much thank you very much. I appreciate it. The opportunity to speak has been awesome. And if any support that you guys could show us, please, reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, share any of our content is much appreciated. And the more we get this word out there, the better. If you have any questions or queries about any events, want to know anything more about them, definitely visit our website at www.men'smedicine.info, or just reach out. There'll be a few of us replying on the socials as well and getting back to you if you have any questions or queries about what we do or how we do it, where we come into town and stuff like that. So yeah, happy to answer any questions as well.
Fantastic. And the other thing is, can you give me that link to that video you were talking about of your very first walk?
I can give you a link to a couple of them actually.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. I think it's amazing what you do, and I'm so glad I could talk to you.
No worries. Thank you so much, Hayden. We really appreciate it, and giving us the platform to speak as well and hear about what we do and spreading it out to your audience. So it's much appreciated. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'll talk to you again soon, Luke. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Head on over to the website for more information about this episode and more information about my guests. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll love you forever. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next week. Bye.